Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Leather and Willow, brought to you by Aashrit and myself, Siddhartha. Now, all the teams have played 7 games. Two of our teams are, in fact, playing their seventh game even as we record this. Uh, the Royal Challengers Bangalore are currently playing Kolkata Knight Riders. And a lot has happened since our last episode as well. We've all heard of the Ashok Dinda Pace Academy, which is ably being carried forward after Vinay Kumar. It has been carried forward by Umesh Yadav. But now we have come to know that Kedar Jadhav has started his own batting clinic. And Rahul Tivatia has shown us that he is no fluke with the bat. Dhoni is having a new hairdo, or is it just him pulling his hair out, seeing the way his team is playing? I don't know. I'd leave that to you. Now, if you're looking at me and if you're wondering the same thing, I must tell you that I have a COVID compliant barber who worked on me today. Joining us today in this next episode is Dr. Srinivas once again. And let me quickly go into the first question for today's episode. Guys, what's working for Mumbai? A team that has been so consistent in the IPL, we are seeing it time and again, and they're table toppers one more time. So what's working for Mumbai?
I think they seem to have all bases covered. The only gap probably is the form or the consistency of their captain, Rohit Sharma. But I think everything's working well. Bumrah was a little rusty to start off with, but he is coming into his own. Trent Bolt is amongst the wickets. They have actually found a niche for James Pattinson, whom they didn't know would get a game. So I think they've got all their bases covered. Yeah.
All right. Aashrit, what do you think is working for Mumbai?
Like Srinivas said, everybody is just coming together. You see, Quinton de Kock didn't perform in the first few games, but then he came back to form when they needed him. The bowlers are performing very nicely. You have Pattinson, Bolt, and Bumrah all working together. And of course, you have Rahul Chahar pitching in wherever needed, and you have Krunal Pandya as well. And in fact, Kieron Pollard this season has taken his first IPL wicket after the 2015 season. And it hasn't been just one. He's taken a few wickets as well. As you can see, of course, everything is coming together for Mumbai. And I, in fact, saw a very nice quote. Somebody said, can Mumbai even the odds this year? Because they've only been winning the odd years. So
Right.
they deserve to be on top of the table, really.
Okay, so let's go to the next team that's sitting on top of the table with a positive NRR, Delhi Capitals. So, guys, what do you think has worked for Delhi?
Delhi again, I think their core has come together, especially the batting has clicked reasonably. But I think I've been very surprised by the bowling, particularly Akshar Patel. I mean, 3 days ago I read that he has the best economy of people who bowled at least 20 overs or something during the IPL. I think that's amazing, and they've defended extremely well up until the game against Mumbai, where I thought they were a little under par. But I think, they've always had the batting, particularly the Indian batting, but the bowling has surprised me, to be very honest.
Delhi's got to be a little careful because they've got 2 games over the next 1 week and they don't have Rishabh Pant playing for them. And yesterday they had to bring in Alex Carey because they are not having another Indian backup keeper. And in that process, they had to drop Shimran Hetmeyer. And Delhi has been hit with a double whammy. Amit Mishra has been ruled out of the IPL. And now I read that Ishant Sharma is also out of the IPL because of muscle tear. So again, the bowling has not revolved around these 2 guys whom they will be missing. But definitely Pant, who at number 4 hadn't clicked. But definitely Pant was giving, at least he was not holding out. He was making those 20s and 30s, however ugly it looked. He was making sure that there wasn't a collapse. So yes, Delhi has to quickly, find their balance after this rejig that happens over the next 1 week. And
And I also don't know if Dhawan's a good idea. I mean, of course, if not Dhawan, then it's Rahane. We don't know if that will be a good idea either. But Dhawan's 50 yesterday might have actually lost them the game. I mean, it's a very controversial point to make. But if you go by the smart stats, etc., Dhawan's 50 was extremely slow and could have been the difference between winning and losing another 15 runs, maybe.
So when they bring in Rahane in place of Pant, it looks a little weak because you have a Dhawan and you have a Rahane, both who are pretty similar style players for the T20 format at least. So one of them could be could be dead weight that they're carrying around. Now let's go to the second question for today's episode, and I'm hoping we are able to crunch in as much as we can in as limited a time as possible. So what's gone wrong with the Kings and the so-called Super Kings, or rather the not so Super Kings? The way they started the tournament, both teams, you just would not have predicted that they would be languishing at the bottom of the table at the end of 7 games, and both with a negative NRR as well. So what are your thoughts on these two teams?
I think for Punjab, it's just bad luck. They probably need to go somewhere and do some of their Vastu stuff. But then, because most of their games, they had it in a winning position. In fact, they went to a super over once and lost it. But their last game where they had it in their grasp and then they went on to lose it against Kolkata, I think that was a game that was really pitiful to look at, because they actually should have won it. Everybody would have guessed that they would have won it, but then they brought it upon themselves, playing slowly, losing wickets when everything was going comfortable. But yes, you have to feel sad for KL Rahul as well. You look at him in the post-match presentations, and then he seems to have almost given up on the team's chances. But one more point that actually, this is not from my own opinion, but I've read it, is they're actually questioning Anil Kumble's captaincy. This might be controversial again, but
Coaching,
Anil Kumble's captaincy. Anil Kumble's coaching. I'm sorry. Anil Kumble's coaching has also been brought to the foray, and people are actually questioning it. In fact, if you remember, he and Kohli had a spat with the Indian cricket team, and people are now saying that it's actually good that the fight happened and Indian cricket went into Ravi Shastri's hands. So, but of course, that is diverging away from the topic. But yes, I feel Punjab is just bad luck.
All right. It's very interesting that when you see at the end of 7 games, when you look at the batting charts, the top 2 positions go to Punjab and Chennai Super Kings. And if you look at the bowling charts, the top 2 positions go to Delhi and Mumbai. We have Rabada and Jasprit Bumrah at the top of the pile for the bowlers, and you have Mayank Agarwal and Faf du Plessis in the batting, which also kind of brings me to the next point. Is this a tournament where we are seeing the bowlers influence the game more than the batsmen have?
I think the bowlers have always been important to the game. I mean, cliched as it may seem.
Important to the game, yes, but what I'm talking about is in this tournament especially because of the close nature.
That's what I'm saying. So see, even in a high-scoring affair, I mean, if this was happening in India, you would still find that. I mean, I'm going to guess that you would still find that a team which has more bowlers on top is likely to outperform those who exclusively have batsmen, because they're probably giving you those telling blows, which I think is reflected in this case, because we have seen that the pitches are also changing. You know, we're exactly at the middle of the tournament, as Siddharth was saying. And it's actually, hence, after this point, we're now going to see the batsmen come through, if you know what I mean, paradoxical as it may seem, because now you will see the good batsmen come through, not the hitters, not the sloggers, because the pitches are slowing down.
All right. Aashrit, we've kind of pushed it under the carpet because we got talking about Anil Kumble and Ravi Shastri and all of that. Your background is very colorful, Aashrit, but I think that's about the maximum color that the Chennai Super Kings have. They've left their fans seeing red. What are your thoughts on the not so Super Kings?
I think, like Dhoni said in the post-match presentation, you have a ship full of holes. You plug in one hole and then you see the next hole going down. Like their openers perform one day, but then their middle order fails. And then the next day, you see the middle order almost losing the game for them. Against RCB, especially, the bowlers did a tremendous job in the first 15 overs. They were actually 96 for 4 at the end of 15 overs and then ended up scoring 169. So the last 4 overs were completely terrible. And this is not the first time this is happening for them. If you remember against Delhi in the first ever Sharjah game, something very similar happened. They should have been wrapped up for about 170. They went on to hit 220. But yes, for Chennai Super Kings, everything is going wrong. They plug in something and then something else goes wrong. I think the main factor here is that, Chennai built a team for Chepak, but then everybody also said, this is going to be a spinning place in the UAE. CSK have a full army of spinners, but then you come here and see that spinners are not doing anything. In fact, spinners are getting whacked all over. So I think Chennai really has to rejig their strategy, and most importantly, the players have to step up and perform.
Now, I wouldn't say that the spinners are entirely out of the equation, because we see how teams continue to give Rashid Khan the importance that he deserves. So that's a little harsh to say that the spinners are not in the equation at all. We've seen Tewatia, Krunal Pandya, and Srinivas just earlier made the point about Akshar Patel. I think that the spinners have just not hit the kind of lengths, and they've not been able to get the kind of assistance from the surface. But to their own part, the fielding has also been sloppy. And like you said, the batting unit has collectively let down the bowlers, even on the few days that the bowlers have fired.
See, and I think you also need to consider, I'm saying this off the top of my head, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Chennai has batted second more often than they've batted first. And this has been a tremendously difficult tournament to chase, right? Captains have been winning the toss and chasing. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, some of them have been doing it, despite clear evidence pointing to the contrary. So I think that's worked against Chennai. And come on, guys. I mean, Chennai has made every playoffs they've been part of. So law of averages had to catch up somewhere. Perhaps now's the time that the fans have to be behind the team, because they are going through a tough trot. You never know. Now they can play freely. They might actually topple one of the so-called fancy teams now. You know, that'll give them the tournament some meaning for them.
No, I still think that I still think it's too early to write off a team like Chennai, because if you look at the difference in points between there is Chennai sitting on with 4 points at the 7th position, and they're just one game away from tying with RR or with SRH, going to 6, right? And we know that KKR and RCB, of course, one of them will progress to 10 tonight as we are recording this, but they will be at 8. So, you know, if they have a winning streak of, say, 6 out of 7 games, definitely the 4th spot is not out of reach.
But that's a tremendously difficult thing for any team. I mean, like 6 out of 7 games, yes.
Absolutely. And especially a team that has won only, 2 out of 7. We're talking about a miraculous turnaround. Now, let's just quickly go to the teams just within striking distance, Sunrisers Hyderabad and Rajasthan Royals. And I'll go to Rajasthan Royals first, because I don't think, for the kind of start that Rajasthan Royals had and the kind of promise that Rajasthan Royal has in their squad, 6 points at the end of 7 games, I'm sorry, is just underselling the potential of the team.
Yeah, I would have thought they would be 3rd or 4th by this point in the tournament, if not the top 2. And you're absolutely right, especially after they chased down that target where Tewatia hit 5 sixes. That's the kind of game that should enable a team to be the one to beat, right? On the other hand, it's been sloppy from there. And as you saw, they performed extremely well in Sharjah and have been quite bad at Abu Dhabi or Dubai until the game yesterday, right? Well, once again, it had to be Tewatia and Parag who did that. So I think it's time for some of the heavyweights to fill in their boots. The bowling's working well, actually, with them as well. I think it's the batting that's sort of letting them down. Hopefully, the second half will be better. But a part of me tells me that they might mess it up again. I don't want them to. They're one of my favorite teams, but yes.
Yeah, but what's also not very heartening to see is the number of different opening combinations that they've tried. They've had Smith and Butler. They have Jaiswal and Butler. They've had Samson. I don't know if Samson. Yeah, I think Samson opened. Did he open? I'm not sure.
Samson hasn't opened.
Yeah. Now, yes, the other day, Stokes just joins the team and they send him opening straight away. So, you somehow get the feeling that they're maybe trying one too many things in trying to understand what is their best combination. Now, coming to Sunrisers Hyderabad, again, 6 points at the end of 7 games, but definitely playing very good cricket in the last week or 10 days, definitely since our last video. And guys, your thoughts on Sunrisers Hyderabad? Aashrit?
I think, first of all, of course, they are a very good team, but I guess they're also getting lucky, because you see, at least I personally don't find a balance in their team. They're very reliant on Rashid Khan, first of all. And now they've found Natarajan. He's not taking wickets, but he is absolutely accurate, and he is a vital part of their team, because if he was not bowling, Sunrisers, they probably won't be able to defend their totals or even to have won those 3 games that they have won. Because I remember a game where a team scored about 180, 190. We discussed this as well. Natarajan, the economy was about 7 in that match. So that is something beautiful. So that's the kind of bowling that you actually want to see in this tournament. But again, with their batting, you have a dependency on the youngsters like Priyam Garg and Abhishek Sharma. Of course, it's a great thing to give them a chance, but then you don't want them to have all the pressure going on them, right? You need the top people to actually take it. And with Warner, Bairstow, and Williamson all coming in the top, I think there's too much left for these youngsters.
Okay, now let's go to the team that's actually playing very well, even as we are recording this video at 193 for 2. And De Villiers seems to have smashed a 50 of some 20 odd balls. He's 73 of 33, even as we're talking. So RCB.
Fantasy captain today, by the way, just to let you know.
Okay, good luck with that. RCB sitting with 8 points at the end of 6 games, likely to go to 10 today. I think what has worked for them is that turnaround game that Virat Kohli had with Chennai Super Kings, because he wasn't looking the best of touch. ABD was firing, and Finch was not. Padikkal was just trying to be that anchor, play the sheet anchor role, and he's been playing that very well. But something about RCB seems to be reflecting the mood of 2020. Something's going right for RCB this year.
Yes, but RCB again, I think come the business end, they may still have a problem with the ball. The batting is working. Finch has got back into some form today with, I think, 40 odd, or did he make a 50? But I think you're right. RCB being in the top 4 at the end of the first half of a tournament, that's unheard of. That's almost like seeing a unicorn. So that's true. But I think it's refreshing in another perspective, in the sense that you're seeing different teams now coming through, right? You have Delhi in the top 4, you have RCB in the top 4. These two teams have been chronically struggling teams, right, over the first 10 seasons. So it's wide open, and as you said, even Chennai isn't out of it. Punjab is probably the only team that's out of it. I mean, mathematically they could make it, but I think every other team is still there. And that's what will make the next 7 games exciting.
So that leaves us with only one team. But of course, I'm still waiting to hear if Aashrit has anything to say about RCB.
I'm going to abstain from that, please. You can move on to the next question.
All right. And that brings us to the... Aashrit, you shouldn't disappoint our subscribers. I'm sure they're watching this video. Your friends are watching this video just to see what you're going to say about RCB.
I can just tell you one thing. I really commend RCB fans, because for once, I know how it is to be in their place, and to have done that for 12 years, oh my God, that's hats off to them.
All right, that's a good one, Aashrit. That's a good comeback. Now that leaves us with only one team, guys, KKR.
The biggest thing about KKR for me has been the underwhelming returns of Andre Russell. I mean, he hasn't really set the stage on fire. I haven't followed all of the games closely. Perhaps they're sort of, again, shunting him up and down. So that Andre Russell is maybe the thing that has not worked. What has worked is Eoin Morgan's consistency with the bat, but more importantly, the leadership. There was a game, I think this must have been after your video, where Morgan almost led the troops from the 10th over onwards in a tense chase. And I think Karthik is also getting back into form. The top order has been consistent. They've used Narayan very well. They've used him differently, right? They're now using him in the middle overs, almost like a 10th over bowler. So I think a lot of things are coming together for them as well, but they still seem slightly rusty. I mean, they still seem a little apart from the pack, I would still bracket RCB, Mumbai, and DC in one bracket at the moment, the way they're playing. And there's a little bit of daylight, and then there is KKR. You never know. Maybe they'll chase this down as I say that. Yeah.
And I was telling Aashrit the other day, one thing that's really impressed me about the Kolkata team is the fact that they have 7 bowlers. I don't think any other team has found that kind of a balance with the number of options that they have. And these are all proper bowlers, mind you. They're playing 2 Indian fast bowlers who are relatively new, Kamlesh Nagarkoti and Shivam Mavi. And they're backed up by Pat Cummins, right? And then they have Sunil Narayan, they have Andre Russell, they have Varun Chakravarti, and one more spinner, Aashrit. Who am I missing? We counted 7. Nitish Rana was bowling, of course. He's a part-time bowler. I'm missing a name there. I'm sorry, but I counted and I thought, wow, 7 bowlers in which Sunil Narayan and Andre Russell are not necessarily required to bowl four overs each. And again, like you said, Srini, there was one part of the tournament where he was using Andre Russell for overs 18 and 20, and now that has shifted to Sunil Narayan. Of course, even as we speak, we should remember that if Narayan gets reported even one more time in the tournament, he can't bowl in the tournament till he gets his action cleared, and that's going to be a long process. But KKR has a lot of options in front of them, and like you said, Morgan in the middle order, and Nitish Rana coming in at one drop. It's a big boost for Nitish Rana, whom we have not seen him play that high up the order, but he's doing a wonderful job. Okay, guys, I think we have shot our time by quite a few minutes. So let's wind up.
To end on a humorous note, are we going to call Kings 11 Punjab the chokers? I haven't seen the tag yet. I don't know.
Kings 11, I don't know. I think Chennai is trying hard to get that tag for themselves. If they chase a couple more games, I'm sure I would give it to them myself, Srinivas. So yeah, it's tragic, but it's that you can feel the pain. But yeah, we have to look at the fact that they have not stood up on the day. They've not been able to lift themselves and give us, the fans, the kind of performance that we deserve. All right. Thank you so much for joining in today. We will close here. We will come back to you. Probably our next episode should be when we have a fair idea of who are the 4 teams for the playoffs, and we'll probably give you our predictions on what's likely to happen at the playoffs. Until then, thank you so much. This is Siddhartha signing off, and thank you, Srinivas, for joining us today. Thank you, Aashrit, for taking time off. See you guys. Cheers.